Our next speaker is Carlos Jesus. He's the president of Young Progressives of America, student at LIU Brooklyn, and he was a field organizer for Tim Canova and Bernie Sanders. Everybody welcome Carlos Jesus.
Thank you very much. Let's make some notes right now. Who's ready to fight? So right now, as one of the members of the resistance, and I'm sure all of us are, I'm very excited that there are movements in this country like we haven't seen in decades. The reality is the momentum is now on our side. When I went to the Women's March in Washington, D.C., I had hope. I saw so many people from Green Party, from the Democratic Party, independents coming together under a common cause. Now the reality is that our fight isn't just to resist Trump, but that he is now the face of corporate America. He is now the establishment. He is the establishment that has been hurting the American people for so long. Now, since we are fighting to get big money out of politics, let's remember that back in the 50s and 60s, while there were so many social movements, corporations had a very high tax on them. The highest earning Americans had a 91% tax rate. Corporations and special interests did not have the power that they have right now. The reality is there's something called the Power Memo. He actually, 2 months later after he wrote this, he became a Supreme Court justice. And he wrote to the Chamber of Commerce calling a call to arms to corporations and special interests to fight the increasing democratization of America. The reality is it was a collective effort from special interest businesses, corporations, and the financial sector to push back and influence the government and eventually take over it and deregulate, financialize, stagnate wages, and destroy labor unions. The reality is that we've seen the decline in labor unions when labor unions are the reason why we had a thriving middle class. Now, last semester at my school, our professors, 400 of them, were locked out over a historic lockout that's actually never happened in American history before at a college. That is the audacity that corporations now have, that in New York City, in a college campus, they would physically lock out 400 professors to impose a contract. Now, we fought hard, the students, the faculty, and unions across New York City, and we defeated it. We must continue fighting. We won, and now we continue fighting because 5 of the unions don't have contracts. The reality is the corporatization of higher education, the corporatization of everything in America, of education, of healthcare, of our wars overseas. Now the reality is that now with Trump, we're on the fast track to a reactionary right-wing government. We cannot sit back and say that everything will be fine. Because if we look back at history, and we look at the 1930s and 40s in Germany, it was not just that bad people did bad things, it's that good people stood by and did nothing. We all have an immense power. And collectively, if we fight, if we resist, if we organize in our local communities, we can fight back and take over and transform American society for generations to come. Because the reality is right now that Republicans are 2 states away from rewriting the Constitution with a constitutional convention. We're not hearing that enough. 2 more states go, 2 more state legislatures, and they have the ability to trigger Article 5. The reality is that now we have the momentum on our side and we have to fight to not make that happen. That could have a detrimental effect on our society, and progressives and liberals and anyone who wants to make a change for a better society if Republicans are able to have their way. That is an emergency. And as president of Young Progressives of America, we're an organization aimed at empowering young people to collectively wield political power and use it to implement a progressive agenda wherever they are. From the local level, from student governments, Right now at my school, there are student government elections. We are running around 10 candidates for class council and president. We've already taken over more than half. That is what needs to be going on across the country in school boards. It needs to be going down in state legislatures, in Congress, in the state Senate. That is how we will be able to effectively resist Trump and his right-wing agenda, but also the agenda that Republicans have of cutting social programs, of increasing our military spending, on denying the science behind climate change. And as a young person who really wishes to have a future, I ask all of you to engage, to fight, to use this knowledge, because if we read articles and we share on Facebook and we go to rallies but we don't act, we don't organize with other members of the community, then there's no results. The reality is right now in America, there's people who no longer can walk down the street and feel safe. It was the case a long time ago, but now it's times 10. I have a lot of friends that are undocumented. I have family that are undocumented, where when they leave home, it might be the last moment they see their families. We cannot allow that here in America. When we see the increasing hate crimes against our fellow brothers and sisters that are promoted by an administration and politicians, when we see politicians espousing white supremacy lines, it is our job to fight back, not just in words, but in action as well. We are not free as a society until everyone is free. And that is a reality. I don't feel free until every single man, woman, and child is able to live a decent life without being afraid of being attacked, harassed, deported, or killed. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And we must continue to fight. Resist, resist, resist. Thank you.